This meeting is called to order and everyone rise for the flag salute. Flag.
Who's flag? Go back.
House of Franklin, about that. Go back, I did.
You can go to
Only 13 counties.
Oh, we,
Those
There we go.
Those are
Look
good.
at that.
Well done.
Yes. In the event of an emergency, all people may exit right and left from the room and proceed to the exit door, or doors will be opened from the inside. Open Public Meeting announcement. The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provision of this act, the Heldon Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published in the North Jersey Herald News, the board's official newspaper, on January 11, 2023, and November 13 on 2023. Notices of this meeting indicating date, time, and place were posted publicly on the door of the main entrance to the school and filed with the clerk in the municipality of Heldon. Election results. The election results for the meeting in the election in November read as Ms. Angelina Pudaro Amero, 3-year term of 436 votes, 3-year seat available. Mr. George Guzman Jr., 3-year term, 555 votes. Mr. Ortiz Ramadan, 3-year term, 397 votes. Roxanne Cerner, 3-year term, 380 votes, and write-in totals of 3-year terms of 21 votes. As of right now, we're going to swear in the new board members elected. We can start, Mr. Guzman, did you have someone here to swear you in or not?
We're just waiting on the mayor. I'm not sure if, but I can,
Okay, so we can start with Mr. Ramadan right now, okay?
Yeah.
If you'd like to come to the center right here, and he will be sworn in, right here. You like this?
Ready?
yes.
I, Motez Ramadan,
I, Motez Ramadan,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith
and I'll bear true faith
and allegiance to the same
and allegiance to the same
and to the governments established
and to the government established
in the United States
in the United States
and in this state
and in this state,
under the authority of the people.
under the authority of the people,
So help me God.
so help me God.
I, Motez Ramadan,
I, Motez Ramadan,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I possess the qualifications
that I possess the qualifications
prescribed by law
prescribed by law
for the office of member
for the office of member
of the Board of
of
Education.
the Board of Education.
I am not disqualified
I'm not disqualified
as a voter
as a voter
pursuant to
pursuant to
RS 19
RS 19
semicolon 4-1.
semicolon 4-1.
I am not disqualified
I'm not disqualified
due to conviction of a crime
due to conviction of a crime
or offense
or an offense
listed in
listed in
NJSA
NJSA
18A
18A
semicolon 12-1,
semicolon 12-1,
and that I will faithfully,
and I will faithfully
impartially,
and partially
and justly perform
and justly perform
all the duties
all the duties
of that office
of that office
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So we'll take some time to take some pictures with your family while we wait on the next, candidate. If you want to like to do that. I was gonna do it.
You,
No, we did.
David.
If you want, Jeff should be on. Hey, Jeff, if we're waiting for a couple of dignitaries to come and swear people in, is it okay if we move forward with the agenda to other parts while we're waiting?
Do we have a quorum?
We do have a quorum.
You may do that, but the election of officers should wait until everybody's sworn in.
Very good, that makes sense.
Still locked? It's locked?
Anyone want to take a break?
I'll be happy to keep my.
Maybe this could be this report, because I want to do a break after, well,
All three.
whoever,
Okay.
I mean, all right, yeah, we should.
So we're gonna move on to the agenda and start with you wanna do your, the superintendent's report. So we're going to skip to the agenda. Start the superintendent's report.
Go ahead now.
Giving his report is a voting.
Let me know if that's, yeah. Oh, very good. So I'll skip the part where I congratulate whoever the new board president is. But I will not skip the part where I also wish to welcome our new board member who's very soon going to be sworn in, Ms. Angelina, hopefully I pronounced this right, Quadrano Amaro to the board. Now that you're sworn in, now that you're going to be sworn in, I'm looking forward to it at a time that's convenient for you. Whatever time's good for you, that's going to be good for me. To have you come in, and I'd love to give you a tour of the entire building. The first thing I did when I became principal here was I went to every single classroom, and it's amazing how big this building is. And you see it in different perspectives. I'd love to have you do that with me. And I'd love to have a discussion with you about, how we're looking to advance some of the major aspects of our 5-year strategic plan that this board put together. And I'd like to discuss with you all matters that are important to you and all matters pertaining to HPS finance, HPS staffing, and all HPS instruction. So, once we get this done tonight, I'll reach out to you via the school email you're going to have tomorrow. And then, hopefully very soon come in, but it's going to be at a time convenient for you. And I'm looking forward to having that conversation, just like I did with, all the other members of the board. Do you want me to stop right now so we can get her sworn in? Do we have a senator here now?
Yeah.
Perfect. I'll take a hiatus. Hello, Senator Dodd. Oh, no, you're the star, you're the star attractor.
Good morning. Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Please raise your right hand.
You want any family standards? Hey.
So please repeat after me. I state your name,
I, Angelina Quadrado Amaro,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance
bear true faith and allegiance
to the same
to the same,
and to the governments
and to the government
established in the United States
established in the United States
and in this state,
and in the state,
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
so help me God.
so help me God.
I state your name,
I, Angelina Quadrado Amaro,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I possess the qualifications
that I possess the qualifications
prescribed by law for the office of
prescribed by law for the office of
member of the Board of Education,
member of the Board of Education,
am not disqualified
am not disqualified
as a voter pursuant
as a voter pursuant
to RS 19:4-1.
to RS 19:4-1,
Am not disqualified
am not disqualified
due to conviction of a crime
due to conviction of a crime
or offense
or offense
listed in NJSA
listed in NJSA
18A-12-1,
18A 12-1,
and that I will faithfully,
and that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly
and justly
perform all the duties of that office
perform all the duties of that office
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability,
So help me God.
so help me God.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you so very Thank you.
So now we're going to have our final candidates sworn in by Maria Johnson from the Spirit of Georgia.
I state your name,
I, George Guzman,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of New
of the
Jersey.
State of New Jersey.
I will bear true faith and allegiance
And I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the same
to the same
and to the governments
and to the government
established in the United States
established in the United States
and this state
and in this state
under the authority of the people.
under the authority of the people.
Help me God.
So help me God.
I state your name,
I, George Guzman,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I possess the qualification
that I possess the qualification
prescribed by law
prescribed by law
for the office of member of Board of Education
for the office of member Board of Education,
and am not disqualified
that I am not disqualified
as voter pursuant to
as a voter pursuant to
RS
RS
19:4-1.
19:4-1.
Am not disqualified
I'm not disqualified
due to conviction of a crime
due to a conviction of a crime
or offense
or offenses
listed in NJSA
listed in NJSA
18A
18A:12-1,
12-1, and I will faithfully,
and that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly perform
and justly perform
all the duties
all the duties
of the office
of the office of
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
What's your office?
Elgin Board of Education. According to the best of my ability,
So help me God.
so help me God. Commissioner.
So we're going to take an official roll call right now, and then after the roll call, we'll take nomination for president and vice president and take a break after. Okay? So roll call, Mr. Abbas,
Here.
Mr. Coletta,
Present.
Mrs. Quadrado Amaro.
Here.
Mr. Guzman.
Here.
Mrs. Issa.
Here.
Mr. Martinez.
Here.
Mr. Moxell.
Here.
Mr. Ramadan.
Here.
And Mr. Webb.
Here.
Okay, all are present. I would like to take a nomination for board president.
I nominate Mrs. Lisa Issa.
Second.
Going to take a roll call for the nomination of board president, Mrs. Issa. Mr. Abbasi, yes or no?
Yes.
Mr. Coletta, yes or no?
Yes.
Ms. Cordaro Amaro, yes or no?
Yes.
Mr. Guzman,
Yes.
Mrs. Issa, same.
It's
Okay. Mr. Martinez, Mr. Moxell,
Yes.
Mr. Ramadan,
Yes.
and Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Okay, congratulations.
So I would like to take nominations for vice president of the Board of Education.
Like to nominate Mr. Masso.
Second.
Right, so nominated by Mr. Martinez, seconded by Mr. Guzman. So we do a roll call.
Yes, we do.
Okay, so let's do a roll call.
Mr. Abbasi,
Yes.
Mr. Coletta,
Yes.
Mrs. Cordaro Amaro,
Ah.
Mr. Guzman,
Yes.
Mrs. Issa,
Yes.
Mr. Martinez.
Yes.
Mr. Moxell,
Yes.
Mr. Ramadan,
Yes.
and Mr. Webb.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Before we take, I do want to take a break, but before we do that, while everyone is still here, I would really like to give the opportunity to the newly sworn in board members to just say a few words if they would like to. So whoever wants to go first, Ms. Quadrado, would you like to go first?
First, I want to say thank you to the healthy community and everyone who voted for me. To Mayor Johnson and the council for supporting me through this journey. I also want to thank my family for always supporting me. A huge thank you to Senator Nellie Cole for being out here to swear me in today. I'm excited for this opportunity and I look forward to working with my fellow board members to ensure that every student has every opportunity to be successful. Again, thank you.
This opportunity to thank everyone for coming out tonight. And I want to thank my family and others for supporting me. Especially, I would like to thank all the voters for trusting in us and electing us for the next term and helping serving our community and our children for the future. And again, I would like to take this time to thank everybody and thank you for nominating us. And it will be a pleasure to work with the rest of the members.
Mr. Guzman.
Keep it short and sweet. I just want to thank the community for their everlasting, for their entire, all their support. It's been a phenomenal, been almost 10 years. As I go into my fourth term, I continue to give everything I have to our children and to our entire community. I look forward to working with each and every one of you as we continue moving forward. I would also love to hear from our state senator, Nellie Poe, our mayor, Michael Johnson, see the mayor from the third largest city, Andre Saya here, city of Patterson. So I would love to hear from them as well. So I would like to yield my time. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Perfect.
So first of all, thank you so very much. Let me just, good evening, everyone, and thank you for this invitation. I am just so very happy to be here tonight. Happy New Year to all of you. to your families, to a very prosperous new year, a very healthy one. We went through some very challenging times in these last couple of years, but I know that, you know, we are strong and we will certainly do good. We will certainly make sure to do the best that we can within school. I've had the incredible honor and privilege of coming to the school many a times, and it's always wonderful to be able to return here. But I want to take a moment, a special moment today to be able to congratulate, of course, all of the candidates that got elected. Hamilton Public School is so important. The parents and the community is especially important to make sure that you have individuals that will help to make sure that they will do everything that they can to ensure the best possible education for your children, for their children, and this entire community. You have my everlasting support. I will continue to do the best that I can in the state legislature. Resources, but certainly support your endeavors as well. So congratulations to all of you. Happy New Year and God bless you. Thank you for this.
Our own, very own mayor, Michael Johnson.
HPS parent.
Yeah.
Good evening to you all. Congratulations to Angelina for you being elected, you being re-elected. Each and every one of you played an integral part in our students' education, and we're grateful and thankful for you being here. If it wasn't for you, and it's a true testament to the fact that you are here, and many of you have been elected many times over, so that has to say a lot. But I want to let you know that we are here to support you. We are here with you, each and every one of you. We all know that, you know, at times it does get rough and tough, but just know that you're not by yourself. You're never alone. You have the backing and support of this council. So whatever it is that you need, you don't be afraid to reach out. Congratulations again. A wonderful meeting, and Happy New Year. Everyone can bear.
I'm actually here on behalf of the First Lady of the City of Patterson, because Commissioner Quadrado, you extended an invitation to her, but she's with children at this time. And I want to acknowledge that Commissioner Quadrado is a very active parent with the Girl Scouts in the City of Patterson, your daughter Alanis, who we thank you for volunteering your time and your talent to the young ladies in Patterson as they mature. I also want to acknowledge two individuals that have roots in Patterson. We're here in Hamilton celebrating, but it all started. Commissioner Guzman, you've risen to the rank of Deputy Chief. We are all proud of you. First Dominican to rise to that level. In fact, you were there when Patterson, with Stanley Rodriguez, he became a Deputy Chief, and he's also a proud Dominican American. So we salute you for your service to the children, your service, public safety. And Commissioner Ramadan, who was a Pattersonian at one time as well.
Yeah, for like over 15 years.
15 years, still complains about potholes in Patterson and property taxes.
Yes.
I want to salute you and your family.
Thank you.
Especially your son, who this past week became council president in Hamilton. And if I'm not mistaken, somebody could fact check me, because I don't disseminate erroneous information. I attempt to be accurate in everything I say. I believe that Muhammad Ramadan is the first Palestinian American Muslim to be a council president in the United States. Well, Senator Paul will tell you, I started on the school board over 20 years ago. And it's never easy, but it's well worth your time and your effort. And what I advanced, or should I say advocated for, was to have school uniforms for Patterson students. And it wasn't popular at the time, but I sincerely believe that our children should not be competing over what they wear, but rather over what they know. And that's what should help them stand out as students. And 20 years later, they're wearing school uniforms. And 3 of those children are mine. So I congratulate not only our commissioner who was sworn in, but the borough of Hamilton for having him on the school board. Happy New Year. Thank you.
Senator Paul, Mayor Johnston, Mayor Sage, and I want to also just acknowledge Councilman Junior Morris here, and of course, our Councilman, Council President Mohammed Ramadan, and all the family and friends of our newly sworn in commissioners. So, and thank you to our police officers over there. Let's take a 10-minute break so you can take pictures and chat, and then we'll reconvene and begin the meeting.
So let me restart my report from the beginning. I want to congratulate Board President Isa for her second term as board president. And I will admit that I'm also a board member, and for 2 straight years, they've asked me if I wanted to consider being board president. And I both times I said, no way, because it's a tough job. It really is a tough job. But I want to thank you for your service. It's such an important job that you do, and it's definitely not always easy. No doubt about that. But I do know how seriously that you take the role and how it's a part of who you are. And I'm proud to work with both you and this board again. You know, we congratulated our new board member, but I do want to divert to a couple of things. One is that we have the mayor of Patterson here. I'm also a 7-year resident of Patterson, New Jersey, in 28 Maitland Avenue. So just saying. And so is Lamika. My friend Lamika is also a former resident of Patterson. So I think Carlos is too. Is that right? Yeah. So we don't feel no. Now, there's a lot of Silk City love and Eric on this board, which is really good. And I do want to say that I had one of the best times ever. It's the same thing every year, but that holiday float thing that we do, every single year, it makes me realize how lucky, once again, I am to have this position. It's just really nice to see the kids in front of their houses and see them in that light, and to see, you know, how close knit, how important family is in this particular town. I'm sure it's an important thing in every town, but in this town, it's just as important. And I really get a kick out of that every year. As long as you guys keep having me here, you're super. I'm going to be the first person to sign up for that every year. I'm not going to mention that Lamika didn't come this year because she's in Florida, but I'm sure Florida was lovely, or wherever you went. But you know, Lamika's going to be on there next year. She's already told me that. But it really was a great event, and thank you for the board for that. I know this is a reorg meeting, so I'm going to kind of truncate my message a bit before we hand it over to the board president and BA. But there's 2 things legislative things that I think this board should be made aware of. The first piece of legislation is something that the governor has actually signed, and it requires all schools that have grades 6 through 12, and we have grades 6 or 8, to have access to tampons and sanitary napkins free of charge, and at least 50% of the female bathrooms. And to me, this seems like a very good idea, and we're going to work on making this something that we have at HPS within the next few months. We want to get ahead of the curve. Currently, we offer this to students, but they have to walk to the health office to get the materials. And not only is this a really long walk if you're coming all the way from the middle school wing, but let's be real, the health office is where sick people are supposed to go. And it makes perfect sense to keep perfectly healthy people away from the place that sick people are supposed to be. It says that the state will reimburse districts for the cost of this initiative. When I heard this, it dawned on me that I literally have no idea how much this might cost. Like I've never bought any of this, and I've never been blessed enough to have daughters, so I have no idea. But that's going to be Lamika's job to figure out. But it's going to be the kind of thing where I think it's a good thing that we get ahead of the curve and kind of make it easier for our female students to get fixed. But the second piece of legislation is a little bit more controversial. It's supported by the NJEA, but it isn't supported by your legislation, your association, the school boards. It's not supported by either of my 2 associations or any other association related to NJ public schools. And the crux of it is that basically 12 years ago, the Achieve NJ Act came in, sponsored by Governor Christie, and it completely changed the landscape of how we evaluate teachers. It caused the advent of something called the SGO, which is a test that kids would take at the end of the year, and then we'd see how much they achieved towards the end of the year, as well as the SGP, which is kind of like the same thing, but like on a standardized test. And now, yeah, 12 years is a long time, and it's definitely worth revisiting this topic. No doubt about that. But the bill that was passed via the lame duck session and is now on the governor's desk, the goal is to give tenured teachers a summative evaluation once every 3 years. And to me, I don't think that's a prudent idea. And I know that you all work really hard on giving me a summative evaluation every single year, and I read every single word of it. And a lot of the decisions I make or the things I try and get done are based on what you tell me in that summative evaluation each year. I'm not convinced it's the best thing in the world to do to only have a summative evaluation for teachers every 3 years. I will say that we have the best teachers at Hamilton. There's a reason when we were open during COVID, when everything was closed, the teachers are a huge part of that. So it's not about that. But I think that if you want to use the summative evaluation and that you want to use the evaluation tool to improve teaching and to improve student achievement and to improve student outcomes, then having this on a yearly basis is something that's highly worthwhile. So, will this bill be signed up by the governor? It's kind of 50-50 right now. And I have very little say in it. So if it's signed and it becomes a law next September 1st, and that's what it is, and we'll adjust. But we're hopeful that it's something more solid or more reasonable will be determined. And lastly, an update on the Esther Parent Academy. Our next event will be on the 18th of January, and we'll focus on extended day and summer BOSS program. These are two of our most popular programs. Fortunately or unfortunately, I won't be in attendance at that particular event. Mr. Torito, Ms. Barnhill, and Ms. Hellowa will be facilitating this event. Thus far, we have 21 parents and 6 staff members signed up for that meeting. So it's nice to see that the program, which is brand new and has never been done before, is growing steadily in participation each meeting. The last meeting will be in February, and then Ms. Hellowa, who's hanging out on our left, will prepare a report both the administration and the board based on the input she has received. So that's my report for the reorg. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Mr. Guzman, did you have a question?
No, he ended up answering.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions? So I do have a report. Well, first, I just want to thank everyone for being here. I want to wish everybody a happy new year. And I want to again congratulate the newly sworn in board members. I'm looking forward to working with each of you. Secondly, I want to sincerely thank my fellow board members for trusting me with the leadership of this board as president for another year. So last year was my first year as president, and while I think I held my own, I had a lot to learn, and I still do. So I hope to build on the experiences and lessons of last year and apply that to my service this year. And I promise to do my best. I'm not perfect, and this board is not perfect, but I believe in the integrity of every board member here. And I know that each of us looks to serve, first and foremost, the students of Hamilton Public School. Together, I hope we can continue to build on our successes and approach challenges in a constructive way, with an eye towards collaboration with each other, with the administration and staff, and with our families and community in order to improve and to be better, because that's always the goal. So starting off on a positive note, let's embrace what's working and make it better. And let's commit to finding solutions to challenges that are fair and smart. Let's start this new year off by moving in the right direction, which is always forward. And with that, I will turn it over to Madam Business Administrator.
So, thank you, President. So my report is basically pertaining to the election of the new board members. You received and read the oath today, so if you can sign that back and get that back to me so that we can have that on file. In addition, there are going to be a requirement of filling out a disclosure form, which is online. We will get that information to you, and you have to do that within 30 days. Our current board members have until April 30th, end of April, to complete the disclosure form. This is an annual form that is filled out every year. In addition, tonight, we're going to have our ethics training, and everyone should have received a board member receipt of code of ethics to sign and, get back to me after the training. So that would need to be kept on file to make sure that every board member received training. In addition to the ethics trainings tonight, there are trainings that each board member have to do. New board members, there's an orientation, and then there's other governance ones that you would have to do. Other board members who have to complete other governance training, please see me. I will let you know. I believe everyone is caught up to date, but there is going to be a requirement for 2024. So the earlier you get it done, the better, because sometimes, we wait a little bit and then we're trying to get it all packed in by December 31st. So that's basically my report today, just keeping us up to date with our training, making sure that all of our ethics forms are in, and if there's any questions, please let me know.
Yeah. So now I think we're going to turn it over to our good friends, Kathy Holla. Welcome, Kathy, and Happy New Year.
And thank you for having me. You mentioned the acknowledgements of receipt. Does the board need?
So either one of them is fine. I did give them this, if that's okay. If not, we can't on that.
This has all sorts of fancy words. It says,
Use the fancy
yeah,
words.
let's use that. Good evening, everybody. I am passing out a form for you to fill in, date, and send on back. This is a minutes for the member. Oh, I'm not already done it. Is that you? Very good.
It's a
What? Is to be able to lead you through that. It's not gonna take all that long. I have. Please sit back, relax, listen. If you have questions, by all means, ask me now, ask me later. My contact information will. What the answer is, but either way, in your packages, you'll get a question and answer sheet and all that good stuff. So if a friend, as a board member, right, approaches you, and your friend is a parent at HPS, they've supported you for your reelection or your election, intimate to you that they're nervous about an IEP meeting that they're going to have next week. This is the second IEP meeting they've had, and the first one, they left very confused. They were unhappy. They weren't sure that everything was done right by their daughter, and they don't want to repeat. They know you're on the Board of Education, and they would like for you to come to that meeting with them, so you can help them navigate through the process. What would you do? Another scenario I want you to think about is, let's say you're having coffee with a fellow board member, and you're talking about another unfunded mandate that's coming down from Trenton. This happened, right? Clearly, you're talking to each other and you're like, this is gonna cost our district money. It's not necessary. It could even be divisive in the community, and neither of you like it at all. You haven't had a chance to discuss it with your fellow board members at the board table, but both of you are very clear that this is not good for your school. So your fellow board member is saying, I'm going to write a letter. I'm going to use my HPS board member email account because I want them to know where I'm coming from. I want them to pay attention to me, and I want them to know exactly why this is a bad idea for HPS. And I'd like you to do the same. What would you do? Feel the same way? Is that something that you should say yes or no or maybe do? Think about that. These are just two examples of some of the situations that you may have been faced with as a board member, or that you may very well will be faced with as a board member. It's really important that you know the School Ethics Act. It is a law, especially for us school board members. I'm not a school board member anymore, but I was for many years, and it's still in my heart. I make my living working with boards of education now, and I'm very proud to be able to do that. But it is kind of daunting to know that there's a law that's just for us, right? Just for the school board members. Why is that? And why does Kathleen say this is, the board member type of thing? Well, what this law does is it creates a specific set of standards for school board membership, which is applicable, actually required, from all the way up in Montague down to Cape May, Patterson, in Blairstown, in charter schools, in VOTEC schools, in traditional public school districts. Every person who sits at the dais is beholden to the same law, the same job description, and the same set of standards. And that is really important. It's very interesting when I think that a board member in Newark has the same duty as a board member in Blairstown, right? Doesn't matter how large your district is or the characteristics of it. If you are here for oversight of your unique school district, that's a real honor, and that's a great thing. But if we start going outside the lines, it costs your public trust in the institution of the Board of Education. It's not functioning well. It's not functioning well. That's what the School Ethics Act protects against. It's a beautiful thing. When you think about what a great school district does for its community, you start to understand why this law is so necessary and why we should keep it and why we should embrace it and why we should certainly, as school board members, know what it says. So in your packet, you're going to get the entire text of the law. It is 9 pages of legalese that you are responsible to know. And it addresses all of those bullet points on that slide. There's quite a few of them, right? I'm not going to read them to you. You'll see them yourself. But again, it's pretty dry. So I'm very pleased that I get a chance to talk to you in kind of, in colloquial terms and everyday language, and we can talk about it if you have any questions, right? Just so that you know what this does. If you do not know what the Ethics Act is and you go against it, there are consequences, absolutely. Now, are you going to get the cuffs put on you? No, however, but there are negative impacts to, first and foremost, your school district, which I think is really interesting because the School Ethics Act is focused on individual behavior, right? But if an individual goes outside the lines, then the school district is impacted, which I don't think is very fair, but that's the way it's written. And also in your QSAC review, you are absolutely required for everyone to file your income disclosure statements, which we'll talk a little bit about, your training, and to discuss the code of ethics. Otherwise, you're going to lose points. And everybody in the district works so hard to get a good QSAC score. It's really a shame. I hate to see it when boards fail to flounder on it. And there's consequences for you as a school official, namely embarrassment. When something goes wrong and someone files an ethics charge against you, and if you were found to be in violation of the School Ethics Act, there is a penalty. It is a very public act. not only does it get into the newspapers, but it goes on the School Ethics Commission's website, and any can file an ethics charge against you. You could be a parent, could be a teacher, could be a good government watchdog, anybody. But if you are found to have been in violation, you know, those penalties are blasted out for the entire state to see. But there's also some kind of boring reasons to be in violation of the Ethics Act, and that's not filling out your income disclosure properly, and that's not doing your annual training. Seen people get kicked off their boards for that. There are sanctions involved. And the best way to avoid something like this and to get to know what the Ethics Act is like in real life is to visit the School Ethics Commission's website. This is something that is constantly being updated whenever the commission, which is a volunteer organization that meets in Trenton monthly, whenever they come to a decision on a particular case, it goes on their website, right? And whenever they issue an advisory opinion, it goes on their website. And what's beautiful is that a couple of years ago, this thing was revamped, so it's a lot more easier to look through. Like, look at these advisory opinions, it's beautiful, it's not perfect. But at least if I'm like saying, where is that decision about that, you know, woman with the bookstore who wanted to sell books to kids, where in their district, where is that? I can find it a little bit more rapidly now, especially with those advisory opinions, because an advisory opinion is just that, it's advice that the commission gave. There's no harm, no foul, because somebody asked, can I do this without getting in trouble? And you can do that too, as a school board member. The general public can't do that. They can't ask about it. But you can ask about yourself or your school board. You can ask for advice directly from the Ethics Commission. There's instructions on the website. It's good stuff. And as you read those advisory opinions, which are published after they're issued, not all of them are published, but the commission figures which ones are the most helpful and they put it on up there, you'll learn like what this Ethics Act looks like. And when we look, and again, I mentioned there are, right? It starts small with a reprimand, which is just like a little slap on the wrist. They get a letter from the Commissioner of Education saying you were a bad board member. Or you could have a censure where there's an announcement from the dais. You could be removed from the board altogether or for a short amount of time. Again, it's painful. It's painful for you, and it's painful for the district because it really does put a cloud over your work. There's no fines, even if you are removed from your board, that the commission's going to impose on you. The only fine that the commission can impose is if you file, or anybody files, a frivolous complaint, which used to be pretty rare, but these fines are coming up more often because people are using ethics filings as a weapon. And the commission is noticing this. If you file something that's clearly in bad faith, or if you file something that you should have really known was horse feathers, and there's a couple of them on there, you'll see them, you could be fined anywhere from $100 to $500. But that's a little bit misleading when this slide, it's the only fine that can be imposed, but when there's an ethics complaint against you or a fellow board member, yeah, it costs the district money because everybody lawyers up. And that's something that you don't need to spend money on, really. You keep your nose clean. Wouldn't you rather have that going back into the classroom, support your teachers and your students? I'm sure you do. That's why, again, thank you very much for having me here so I can kind of draw this in. The first part of the ethics, after all the definitions, you'll notice that there is a definition of all sorts of conflicts of interest. You need to make sure that in your governance at the table, you are not governing in a way that would cause some kind of breach in the public trust. You're conflicted. You're acting with of two minds, right? It might benefit you here if you vote as a board member this way. So there's all sorts of subsections to this, and I am not going to read all of them to you. They will be in your packet. And I will tell you that they are very nuanced. But going through this, you'll see that, and you'll see this when you get it on, tomorrow, email to you, that some of these words are in bold because these are kind of keywords. And as we go through this, you'll see some concepts coming to the forefront, right? So, interest in a business, right? You or your immediate family. unwarranted privileges or advantages or employment, some kind of financial involvement, some kind of compensation or prejudice of your judgment, some kind of gift, favor, loan, something like that, right? Financial gain, some type of representation to anyone other than the school board, right, and the school district at the dais, something like that. Any kind of monetary gain, benefits on behalf of a constituent that are. So basically, you're getting the gist, right? If it looks funny, if it's going to look funny, don't do it. That's at the heart of these conflicts. That being said, your attorney is the best person to help you navigate whether something is a conflict or not. Because they're very nuanced, they're very fact sensitive, paying your attorney to protect you and the board. So if there's ever a question as to whether or not you should vote on a particular item, or if you should take part in a particular discussion in committee or at the dais, ask President Issa, Superintendent Waka, Business Administrator Augustine, to get in touch with your attorney and have them weigh in on it, and they will keep your nose on. All right, so enough said on those conflicts. We could go on forever, but read the decisions on the Ethics Commission's website. You'll kind of learn by absorbing all of that. But I also want to address that conflicts in hiring and employment is something that you need to be aware of too. If you have someone belonging to you who works in the district, then you will not be able to participate in certain things that the board is doing. You can stay on the board, you just need to recuse yourself from particular votes. But if you are elected to the board and someone belonging to you already works in the district, then that's not a problem. Again, you have to recuse yourself from particular votes. You cannot hire someone. The board cannot hire someone in your family, with very, very narrow exceptions. Okay, it's just not allowed. So here's, the language of the law on that. Anyone that's superior of command with ending with the superintendent is in your family. If you got somebody there, you have to sit that stuff down. There, and when we're talking about the collective bargaining agreement also, there is a chart that was issued back in 2017, and it has been expanded. It's really long now, but it hasn't. The advice hasn't changed. Basically, if yourself or your spouse works for the union, then you cannot participate in negotiations, but you can probably vote to ratify the contract at the end of the day. If you have someone in your immediate family who works in the district, then you cannot participate in collective bargaining from start to finish. And if you have someone who is a little further afield, right? Not your spouse or a child who lives with you, but perhaps a brother-in-law or sister-in-law or cousin, or perhaps a grown child who lives, further away. You probably can participate in collective bargaining with certain exceptions. So again, if you feel that there is a conflict, make sure that your attorney weighs in. For instance, if my sister-in-law is the head of her union's negotiations team in Compton Plains, I'm serving in Warren Township, that may conflict. I would ask for an opinion. And that has changed actually over the years. So it's another good reason to ask your attorney for advice. Questions so far? All right. The code of ethics is really meaty, okay? And this is where there's a lot of violations. So we're just going to go through this pretty, quickly but thoroughly. There are subsections A through J that board members really do need to know. This is where the job description is. So this is good stuff, right? And the first part is really easy, right? It's just that you'll uphold all the laws. Like the state of New Jersey, if the court tells you to do something, you'll do it. The State Board of Education tells you to do something, you'll do it. Now that, things are calming down a little bit, I hope we won't have as many problems with this throughout the state, but yeah, A is you follow the law. During the pandemic, we saw a lot of problems in this area, but they thought things have calmed down a little bit. Let's hope they stay calm. B is much happier. This is really my favorite. This is why you're a board. to make decisions in the best interest of all the children of your school district. And honestly, you want to do that not just because that's what you're here to do, but it is the law. There have been violations of this over the years. As a little aside, when I worked for the New Jersey School Boards Association, I worked for like over 70 districts and talked to a lot of board members. And one of the board members that I served was found in violation of this, which is rather rare. But I will tell you, it taught me a lot, and hopefully teaches a lot of board members about it, because she was a good person. She really wasn't a bad person. But she found this issue that affected her son that she just couldn't let go. She kept pushing and pushing and stepped outside of the lines numerous times, and she got slapped with an ethics charge. And it took a long time for their district, Montague, which has no money, by the way, to litigate. That took 5 years. 5 years. By the time it was over, the commission said that they would kick her off, except she was no longer a board member. And not a bad person, but just got it in her mind that she was going to advocate so strongly for an issue that impacted her son very directly, that she lost it. She lost it. Parents, I can kind of understand how that might happen, but as a board member, you need to keep your nose clean, because it's not just your kids who are relying on your service, it's all of the kids. But usually he is a pretty, C continues the job description. As far as the Ethics Commission is concerned, you have 3 things to do, only 3 things, and they're actually right. You can find your board action policy making, planning, and appraisal. That's it. Anything else is not the domain of a school board member. But the important visionary things. Policy is, that's your district story. You get to vote on it. You get to impact that. Of all the people that this district serve, only the people at this table can do that. So that's pretty big. Planning, we have a strategic plan here that we discussed an awful lot, that we revisit every year when we set district goals and board goals. And again, this is the body that does that. And appraisal, the perfect example of that is the evaluation of the superintendent annually. Because your superintendent is the individual who has the greatest impact on your student's achievement, and student experience, and only this board can evaluate that person legally. So those are 3 very important gigs, and quite frankly, that's enough. I would say there's a 4th prong to that, and that's making sure that you communicate well with the community, but the School Ethics Commission doesn't really care about that so much, so we're gonna let that for now. But it also dovetails very beautifully into subsection D. And if you haven't heard this before, you will hear it many times again, and it's worth repeating every single time. That as a board member, you will not run the schools. That is not your authority. You are not equipped to do that. But what you do is that with your fellow board members, you ensure that the schools are well run. And that's why that evaluation piece is so important, and why that strategic planning piece is so important, and why the budget vote is so important, because those are the hallmarks of a well-run district. And the beautiful thing about boards of education is that they are made up of lay people. You can have an educator on your board, and often that's a really wonderful thing, but that's not a requirement for board membership. And you are able, from all walks of life, to come to this table and sit with people of differing opinions and differing viewpoints and differing experiences, and come together and say, what do we want for our school? What does our community want? What's expressed in our strategic plan? And is our administration actually doing that? Be giving our administration the resources that they need. That's a big deal. So that's what that's all. Love to. E is a beauty. You recognize that the authority rests with the board. You are not the board. You can go out to lunch and people look at you and say, oh, that's a board member, but you are not the Board of Education. And your authority is only in play when you are sitting at this table voting on things, right? So, this gets violated on social media all the time. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But you have to be really careful to make sure that your board action takes place at the board table. So you don't, try to invite yourself to a staff meeting and speak on behalf of the board. No, there are policies in place on how the board's message gets promulgated to staff, to the community, to students, to administration. We follow those, but I'm telling you, it doesn't involve you going out and saying, I'm the Board of Education, we do that. We'll talk again. F, obviously, and it doesn't take too much time to say that you don't use your school board position for the gain of friends. You do not surrender your independent judgment to any kind of organization or political party. You use your conscience and your judgment. That's what you're voted for. And G is very verbose, but it can really be summed up in just a couple of words, and that is no leaks. If there is any information that is given to you as a board member, and there has been, that's confidential, you keep that confidential. It's completely airtight. And not just because it's part of the School Ethics Act, although that's really important, but also because as a human being, right? That is when people are at their worst, is when they start getting discussed in executives, right?
Ms. Heller,
Yes.
how many people do you think know that's a leak? That plant is a leak?
That's a really great question. Now
Because when you sent me this presentation, I showed my secretaries, four of us knew of us, only one of us, Jenny, knew that was. I did not, and neither did two other secretaries.
Yeah.
That sounds ridiculous to you, Carlos, as it does to me.
They're either gonna say a leak or a scallop.
Sorry, to interrupt.
It's okay. Did anybody else know it?
You be honest.
Yeah.
It's part of the onion life.
Did you know what it tastes like? Of course, when scallion tastes like, or a leek, or this, or scallion.
I don't really know either, but anyway.
Well, okay, you can eat it, not eat it, I don't care, but as long as you don't leak confidential information into it, that picture is done.
I want these things.
That's a really important one. You can get slapped really hard, but now, so.
No, it's leaking that. But now you're looking for something.
Oh, and also, excuse me, besides no leaks, everything that you talk about with your board stuff has got to be the truth, right? And also, if you're in the shop, right, and somebody pulls your car out and wants to talk to you about school board stuff, that could be potentially dangerous for you, right? Because if somebody's asking you about what's going on in the school board, you have to be really careful to only say what's going on in the school board and not what you hope is going to go on in school, or what you would want to go on in school, right? Because that blurs the lines. That could be confusing for some. And as a member of this board, of this team, you can't misrepresent its work, even unintentionally. So it's not that you need to take your cart and go in the other direction. I know some people do that. I don't advise that. I don't think that's cool. You're an elected official. You got to talk to people, but you do it with a degree of honesty and transparency and clarity and finesse that the office deserves. H is easy. You will vote to appoint the best qualified personnel available after receiving the recommendation of the superintendent. You cannot hire someone without the recommendation of the superintendent. Cannot be done, as far as hiring. And that's a good thing. Now, remember, we're lay people here, so we would want our credentialed and esteemed superintendents to do what is right for the school. And in the end, also, that kind of flows right into this requirement that you will support and protect school personnel in the proper performance of their duties. And I love this one because, number one, of course we should be supporting our school personnel, right? Of course we should do that. And I know that you do. But what's also beautiful about this is that when someone tries to, whether it's a father right? Cocktail party, or soccer field, church, or wherever you're going, and they want to get you into a conversation about their third grade daughter's teacher who's on the phone all the time, or their son's basketball coach who says things that are disgusting to the players, that's not your conversation. Do not be drawn into that. And you can say with full and complete confidence and a very clear conscience that you are not allowed to get into that conversation as per the School Ethics Act. However, the parent, or the guardian, or the community member has a legitimate concern, and they need to go through the chain of command. People don't realize that that's active, but it is. George, you've got some thoughts or questions on that?
My recommendation, I can tell everyone all the time, see Waka, hailden.org. It's his email address. It's your best friend. Just give him the email address, and that's what he gets paid to do.
He's very responsive, I'm sure, right? Hopefully you're not inundated with that, but I'll do you one better. The chain of command is the way for people to go through towards the superintendent if necessary. Because a lot of times, if there's something going on with the, with the coach, in a bigger district, have you talked to the coach? Well, yes, nothing's been done. How about the athletic director? No, go to the athletic director, then go to the school. You go to the child's teacher, okay, and then you advance to the principal. There's not much layers here, so, that CWACA email address really comes in very handy an awful lot, I'm sure. But that's how it goes. It doesn't go to the board. It doesn't go to the board. But going into our very last subsection, it might, right? Because as a board, you are what's called the court of last resort. And if there is a parent or an entity that has a problem with the school district or some aspect of the school district, and there is a failure of an administrative solution, right? Not an unpopular one, but there just was no solution at all that was offered, then it can go before the board. But only then. And your attorney will guide you through that. So specific steps that you need to take. It's not just a matter of someone coming to public comment and saying something that bothers them. As board members, you're going to hear stuff that's wonderful. You're going to hear stuff that you might get upset over, right? You're going to hear stuff that you're just like, how could that be? I don't like that. I can't believe that this is what this parent is saying is happening to their family. But guess what? It's not your job at all to fix that. What you do is when you hear complaints, you give them, as per the Ethics Act, to the superintendent, make him aware that you have heard of. You don't say, fix this. You don't say, follow up. You don't say, I want to make sure that you call this person. I want to make sure you do X, Y, or Z. You just tell him what you've heard. That's that. And you let it go. Because we're not equipped to do that. And for us to try to solve those areas that belong to the superintendent or anyone beneath him on the chain of command is to violate the School Ethics Act. It's trying to run the schools, not trying to see that they are. So again, it's pretty important to keep that in mind. I'm wondering if there are any questions about the.
I do have one kind of the comments, what I kind of use as a rule of thumb in terms of like what can be discussed and what shouldn't be. If it's on the agenda, which is public, it could be just discussed just purely by like what's on the agenda or what took place at a meeting, because that's also public. So is that like a good rule of thumb in terms of what you could, if you're approached,
That's a great, on the present agenda or the past agendas. Absolutely. That's a great rule of thumb. Perfect. I might steal that from you when I do these presentations. But yeah, basically, if it's public now, not everybody can. It's great that you televise you make your live streams available, but not everybody gets a chance to listen to this, right? You will be asked about board business. So just keep that agenda going. Anything else? Just want to talk about First Amendment rights before I go as well. This has really been blowing up. And it's been having a few really tough years. Finally, the Ethics Commission is starting to address it because they so many complaints. But for as many complaints as there are, there's tons more examples of truly awful behavior out there. Moralizing, it's depressing, it's not becoming a officer. Pleased to be able to just talk a few minutes about the balancing act that board members have to do with their First Amendment rights. You didn't lose your First Amendment rights when you took the oath of office. You did not. Some people actually have, I've heard that said, and that's incorrect. But at the same time, you are beholden under the School Ethics Act to a certain set of standards and requirements. You have to learn to balance. That's the price of board member. So on social media, we see a lot of board members trying to be pulled, people are trying to pull them into discussion that touch on education or the Board of Education, right? Because they are school board members. Everybody knows you're a school board, right? And they're going to try to get you to opine on a lot of things that should be in front of the board, but not coming out of your own thoughts, because, you know, you can speak as an individual. If you make that clear, that's fine. But a lot of people don't do that. If you don't, you're asking for trouble. So before you, I'm not saying that you can't use social media. You can. I love you and I don't want you to be in any kind of trouble, so you may want to curtail it. I object before you write anything. Go back in the presentation. Read anything. You're not running into trouble up against any of these things. You'll be good, right? But if you really do want to post something, this is a disclaimer that the School Ethics Commission has written. And I don't know, I know some of us have.
I've seen George use this before, so it's good.
Yeah, this is perfect. And in the decision and the presentation that they gave at workshop in Atlantic City a couple of years ago, this was in all caps. I didn't put this in caps, they did, so they're yelling at us. They want us to use this statement, which is a little redundant. But if you use it, you should be okay. The following statements are made in my capacity as a private citizen, not in my capacity. These statements are also not representative of the board or its individual members and solely represent my own personal opinions. Cut and paste. Stick it on there and you're good. Most of the time. However, if you use this disclaimer and then you completely disregard what you just said, right? Cut and paste, and you put in there and go, as board president, as a board member, when I took the oath of office, when I sit at that table, when I hear this from where I sit at the board meetings, well, guess what? You're not posting as a private citizen anymore. You're posting as a board member. And you have to avoid that. The commission is pretty sharp on that, and they have slapped people with penalties for putting up the disclaimer, but not paying attention. Where does this happen? It happens on social media. This is a very useful statement, though, especially when it comes time to endorsing candidates for elections, especially on the Board of Education. You can do that as an individual. Like I said, you don't lose your First Amendment rights, but you can't give the impression that the Haledon Board of Education is making any kind of an endorsement. It belongs to you. If you use those words, then you're good. Okay? Any questions about that? It's pretty important. There is actually, when we talk about First Amendment rights, it's never about something pleasant, right? It's never about, someone's lunch or their day at the beach. It's usually something incendiary. And some of these posts over the last few years that school board members have made on social media have been pretty reprehensible to me. They've been very, 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 very difficult. I can't believe someone's actually saying that about a particular group the kids are a part of. And there is a decision that came down a few years ago called Saini versus Tufano. On the commission's website, it's under C 4820. Read that. It makes for difficult reading. But I devoted a slide here to it because the School Ethics Commission finally put some pretty strong language in its decision about what is worthy of the office of board member and what is not. And what they said here in part is that words which derogate from the mission of a board of education, right? Words that go up against the mission, serve no purpose, create unnecessary hostility and animosity within a community, and ultimately have the greatest detrimental impact on the very people the school board member is tasked to serve. You may see examples of very poor behavior on social media from board members in other districts. Hold your head high, know that you are not going to be doing that, and know that there is a mechanism for holding them accountable. Hopefully they will be. Don't do that. And I will send a quiz to you so you can all have fun with the Ethics Commission decisions throughout the year, but I don't want to extend your night. It's been a long and happy night for everybody. You're going to end on a high note. So also, I would be remiss though to walk out without telling you that an important part of the Ethics Act is to make sure you file the right paperwork. When those financial disclosure statements come in, they don't come from the School Boards Association, they come from Fred, right? They're sent out through your business administrator. You have to send those back as soon as they're done, right? You have to file by April 30th of each year, right? And if you're newly elected within 30 days of the date of taking office, right? It's online and it is a public record, so don't put your actual home address on there. And do your mandatory training. So for brand new board members who have never served before, you need to get that done within the first 90 days of taking office, and it needs to be provided by the New Jersey School Boards Association. They are legally mandated to provide the training. Luckily, they do offer a lot of ways for you to get that done. You can do that in a self-directed manner, click, 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 when you're on spare time. You can do it in person, you can do it online. And if you didn't do, and then every year you take a mandatory training for your first year, your second year, you do another one, but then you have a whole year. Third year, you take Gov 3, you have a whole year. And if you are reelected to a second term or a returning term, then your first year of your new term, you have to take what's called Governance 4, which is a legal update. Again, all provided by the New Jersey School Boards Association. Keep track of when you take these, take a screenshot, print it out, so that you've done it. Because sometimes the records get a little wonky over there. But as long as you do it, you're good, right? And if not, then your district's gonna get dinged, or you could actually be penalized for taking off the rules. There is an entire department in it that all they do is they make sure that you've got your training, right? And that you have a way. I do want to let you know though, that for all of this stuff, and I can talk about the Ethics Act all day, I really can. I'm not going to do that, but I'm not a lawyer, steeped in it by the nature of the work that I do. But the best advice on the School Ethics Act comes from your attorney. So if you're ever in a jam, ask for their input, and pay close attention to it. And that's kind of that. I am really happy to have been able to spend this time with you. I know from working with this board that this is a great group of people who want to advance for their students. Don't worry about Hilton Public Schools Board of Education. We know from experience that that you strive very diligently to do the right thing, and I commend you for doing that. And I welcome the newly elected board members. I hope you enjoy being a board member as much as I did. It really did change my life in a wonderful way. But hopefully what it did is it changed students. So that's what you have the opportunity to do as a team. So much. I didn't even know.
Very much.
Thank you,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Loa, so much. So, Kathy, you will send us this.
Yes, PowerPoint, I'll send a copy to Lamika, and Lamika, you can get it out to everybody. It will have the School Ethics Act, it will have the presentation, and it will have some other resources for it.
You're welcome to stay, but we understand if you leave, you totally get it.
Thank you.
Again,
Madam President.
Thank you very much.
I make a motion to accept adoptions.
Okay, let me put my agenda.
There you go.
so, yeah, let's just start going right down the agenda. So, Mr. Guzman made a motion to accept adoptions. Can I have a second? Okay, so moved by Mr. Guzman, seconded by Mr. Martinez. And can we have?
Mr. Abasi?
Yes.
Mr. Coletta? Mrs. Quadrado?
Yes.
Mr. Guzman?
Abstaining? My vote is yes, but I do have a comment. I just want to say how proud I am because our Actors Care program still remains only $110 a month. I know we have some folks that always want to talk about the negative, so that's something positive. $110 a month still remains very affordable, and Mr. Superintendent, I hope we can keep it that way.
Well, and big props to both. Mr. Torito does a heck of a job with the aftercare and also with even like the certified angels, like the price value you're getting for that is ridiculously high. So I gotta give props to the certified angel people for providing a tremendous bang for their buck.
My vote is yes.
And Mrs. Issa?
Yes.
Mr. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Maxwell?
Yes.
Mr. Ramadan?
Yes.
And Mr. Webb?
Yes.
Can I have a motion to move appointments?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Folletta, seconded by Mr. Motzko. Roll call, please.
Mr. Abasi?
Yes.
Mr. Coletta?
Yes.
Mrs. Quadrado Amaro?
Yes.
Mr. Guzman?
I have a question for Mr. Walker.
Go ahead.
And you as well, Madam DA. When was the last time we went out for RFP for these services? I think it's been a while.
Food services.
If I know for a fact that with the food service, you're required to do RSVP, RFP every 5 years, and this year we're due.
Yes.
So it'll be interesting to see which vendors, put in for it. But is that the one service you're referring to? Is there other
I'm
services?
just talking about everything in general. I know it's a good practice.
I think every 5 years you have to, right?
Every 5 years for the food service. The other services you can do, it's been a practice in most districts that you do it every 3 years. So you go out on the FD, you could do it every year, and you can do a matrix on accepting it. RFP is
At least periodically. We haven't done, for example, board attorney in a while or, things like that. So I still want to point that out, but my vote is yes.
Yes.
Mr. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Maxwell?
Yes.
Mr. Ramadan?
Yes.
And Mr. Webb?
Yes.
Can I have a motion to move contracts and joint services?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Motzko, seconded by Mr. Martinez. Roll call, please.
Mr. Abasi?
Yes.
Mr. Coletta?
Yes.
Ms. Quadrado Amaro?
Yes.
Mr. Guzman?
Yes.
Mrs. Issa?
Yes.
Mr. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Maxwell?
Yes.
Mr. Ramadan?
Yes.
And Mr. Webb?
Yes.
Motion to move designations.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Martinez, seconded by Mr. Motzko. Roll call, please.
Mr. Abasi?
Yes.
Mr. Coletta?
Yes.
Mrs. Quadrado Amaro?
Yes.
Mr. Martinez, Mr. Guzman?
Yes.
Ms. Issa?
Yes.
Mr. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Maxwell?
Yes.
Mr. Ramadan?
Yes.
And Mr. Webb?
Yes.
Okay, moving on to prior minutes. Can I have a motion to approve prior minutes?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Martinez, seconded by Mr. Motzko. Roll call, please.
Mr. Abasi?
Yes.
Mr. Coletta?
Yes.
Mrs. Quadrado Amaro? You
Yes.
could abstain from that unless you read it already, because you weren't here. Right.
That's fine.
Guzman?
Yes.
Mrs. Issa?
Yes.
Mr. Martinez,
Yes.
Mr. Moxell,
Yes.
Mr. Ramadan,
Yes.
and Mr. Wong.
Yes.
Okay, can I have a motion to open the floor to citizens on agenda items only?
So move.
Second.
By Mr. Motzko, seconded by Mr. Coletta, roll call please.
Mr. Abasi?
Yes.
Mr. Coletta?
Yes.
Mrs. Quadrado Amaro?
Yeah.
Mr. Guzman?
Yes.
Ms. Issa?
Yes.
Mr. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Mox?
Yes.
Mr. Webb?
Yes.
So the floor is open to the public on agenda items only. Is there anybody, Mr. Miller? Can I have a motion to close the floor?
So move. Second.
Moved by Mr. Martinez, seconded by Mr. Abasi, roll call please.
Mr. Abasi?
Yes.
Mr. Coletta?
Yes.
Mrs. Quadrado Amaro?
Yes.
Mr. Guzman?
Yes.
Mrs. Issa?
Yes.
Mr. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Moxell?
Yes.
Mr. Ramadan?
Yes.
And Mr. Webb?
Yes.
So for the committee report, since there is nothing to report, and the new committees for the year will be approved on the next, they'll be on the next agenda, but we'll just go through and move the agenda items that are on. So let's start with personnel.
I'd like to move 13.1 to 13.8.
Second.
Okay, moved by Mr. Guzman, seconded by Mr. Motzko, roll call please.
Mr. Abasi?
Yes.
Mr. Coletta?
Yes.
Ms. Quadrado Amaro?
Yes.
Mr. Guzman?
Yes.
Mrs. Itza?
Yes.
Mr. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Moxell?
Yes.
Mr. Ramadan? Mr. Webb?
Okay, curriculum and technology.
14.1, 14.2.
Second.
By Mr. Webb, seconded by Mr. Motzko, roll call please.
Fourth meeting, right?
Mhm.
Mr. Abasi?
Yes.
Coletta?
Yes.
Mrs. Quadrado Amaro?
Yes.
Mr. Guzman?
Yes.
Mrs. Issa?
I'm going yes on 14.1 and abstain on 14.2.
Okay, Mr. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Moxell?
Yes.
Mr. Ramadan?
Yes.
And Mr. Webb?
Yes.
Okay, skipping down to community engagement and outreach and extracurricular.
Like to move 17.1. Second.
Moved by Mr. Webb, seconded by Mr. Martinez. Roll call please.
Mr. Abasi?
Yes.
Mr. Coletta?
Yes.
Mrs. Quadrado Amaro?
Yes.
Mr. Guzman?
Real quick, I just hope that, know that they were talking about it before as far as adding some more streets, if that was possible. Adding to the parade routes. I don't know, some side streets.
You'd have to talk to the borough. We had zero control.
No, understood. But I'm hoping to see that next year, and I'd like to see it's getting bigger every year.
You got up from the bus from the floor as long as you wanted, so wherever they put us, we'd be down with it.
Awesome. My vote is yes.
Mrs. Issa?
Yes.
Mr. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Moxell?
Yes.
Mr. Ramadan?
Yes.
And Mr. Webb?
Yes.
Okay, finance and physical plant.
I'd like to move 18.1 through 18.5. Second.
By Mr. Motzko, seconded by Mr. Martinez. Roll call please.
Mr. Abasi?
Yes.
Mr. Coletta?
Yes.
Mrs. Quadrado Amaro?
Yes.
Mr. Guzman?
Yes.
Mrs. Issa?
Yes.
Mr. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Moxell?
Yes.
Mr. Ramadan?
Yes.
And Mr. Webb?
Yes.
Okay, before we move on, I just want to remind everyone that there is a Passaic County meeting on February 1st. It's going to be virtual, starts at 6:45, and the topic is advocacy and special ed. So that sounds like a good one. And then, of course, just always check your emails, because New Jersey School Board Association sends, all of their communications. So you check your emails to keep on top of, trainings and everything else. Okay, so any new or old business?
had a follow-up on a question from two meetings in a row. It was brought up, I believe, for, I know it kind of goes through the town more than us, but the parents were asking about the crossing guard, trying to put back the post at, I believe it's Cliff and Lee on this corner.
Sure, that's the
To
Barber.
see if we ever, yeah, I'm sorry, Barber,
Yeah, yeah.
one of those, yeah. If we ever made any.
So, yeah, we
getting back.
reached out to SRO and reached out to town, and that's kind of where it's at right now, but I don't have anything further to
Oh.
update.
Would it be possible to just, I don't know, to alert parents, maybe like in one of the weekly reports, just to
So,
kind of be mindful?
That's not a
because of-
terrible idea. I do know that they were training, and George, correct me if you know that I'm wrong, but I do know they were training new crossing guards. And I don't know what the process is or how long you have to watch the current crossing guard before you can become your own post. I do know they were training people. I don't know what the time frame is and where they're at.
Madam President, I suggest that a meeting should be had between the superintendent, the school resource officer, and our traffic supervisor, Lieutenant Michael Susan, just to go over all the crossing guard posts. I know
That'd be
the rest of the
a great idea.
borough, but kind of, take a look at that, evaluate the situation, and see what other streets that they may be needed if the town could take on those costs, so on and so forth.
I'll text them both tomorrow morning and we'll just set that up for you.
Okay.
Any other new or old business?
Good questions, Lane.
I just have a question as to how the construction is going.
So, knock on this wooden floor. Things are going on time, ahead of schedule. The noise complaints that we feared have not been realized yet. I have, since construction started, I saw one construction worker. And that's because we did the parking lot, but we had administration not parked we don't get to be part of the lot. We have to walk like everything. And the only time I saw a construction worker was when he was walking to his car. They're doing a really good job using their entrance only and their exit only, and they have the bathroom in their section. I'd be very surprised if you could find a kid that could say they saw more than one or two construction workers the entire time. Every 2 weeks on Monday at 2 p.m. we have a meeting with the architect firm, the Carabino, and then the person in charge of the company from Northwestern Construction and the in-house manager of the project, Northeastern, I'm sorry. And their attitudes have been very good. And the Carabino's been doing a really good job kind of pushing what we want onto the builders. And so far, everything's going well. Like we've gotten past a lot of the demo. We've poured concrete. It just worked out serendipitously that the one day that we needed a crane to come in just happened to be like the Good Friday day. So we didn't have to worry about like extra parking spots being removed. And it looks like, according to the schedule, it looks like the next day we need a crane. It's going to be like the President's Day weekend. So like we get like that might work out in our favor. They've cut some parts of the steel. They're looking to cut some other parts of the steel, but and then we've also worked with the Carabino to purchase furniture for the new rooms that are coming in, and they have 6 or 7 classrooms and another office space with bathrooms. That's huge, right? And we're looking to, there's going to be a couple different sections of kids that are very likely to be in there, but just to be safe, we ask for furniture that can be used for kids that are in first grade all the way up to 3rd grade, just to based on what the needs are. But so far it's going really well. I think.
And just to follow up on that, things are going okay with the classrooms that were moved and,
Yeah, we're so fortunate to have the teachers that we have. Like, there's no doubt about that, and I'm really glad that Mr. Merlino and you and Mika worked, and Diane and Amanda, we worked to get what I thought was a really competitive, fair contract settled in like so record time when we did our contract negotiation. And I think that brought good faith. And I also think that we just have professionals at those levels. And we know what we're asking of them. My biggest fear now is, to be honest, is that like, we know like there's only X amount of space in Hamilton. So if a big snowstorm comes in, it's really hard to move snow sometimes. And as someone who hasn't parked in my parking spot the last 2 months or so, like it's annoying, but like hopefully I'm losing weight walking more. But if we lose parking spots due to like a really severe snowstorm, that may cause us to take days where in a normal year we wouldn't take days. And I know I'm prognosticating on a problem that isn't here yet, but like that, it's something we have to be. But the return on our investments is we're going to get 8 new classrooms, and we're not going to raise taxes one bit. Like that's crazy.
And we're not going to cut any services.
And we're not going to anything. No, it's just going to be, you know, a lot of the kids that used to have to go, or the teachers that used to go classroom to classroom, the kids that have to be like way too many ESL kids in the classroom. It's not right to have as many art kids going. It's going to be a lot better, but we just got to bite the bullet for a little while. But so far, Northeastern is, I got to say, it's doing a great job. You agree?
Yeah. And like you said, the architect had a suggestion about the flooring. They gave their opinion. We kind of took that information and assessed it with our new Jermaine, and we made a decision on to hold off on the change order because we wanted to make sure that everything was kind of in order before we took on a big expense like that. So they've given us great advice, and we've also had internal personnel help us make decisions of flooring, doorknobs, security, like a lot of things that we are working on.
And if I could jump into, you didn't ask this question, but we're talking about upgrade. During the Christmas, with the holiday break, Christmas break, we purchased electronic doors for every single door in our school. So like once they're all installed, we're going to be able to push a button, and once the door closes, it stays closed. Once there, you know, it's basically a really good safety measure. But we finally got the doors. Like they finally arrived. We've installed maybe 30% of them. Once they're all installed, that's going to be another huge upgrade to our school. Where like, you know, once you close the door, it's locked, and if there's an active shooter or some other crazy situation or a loose dog gets it, whatever the heck the situation is, like once we close that door is now closed unless in locations we're not going to tell people on public record. We can unlock it, like it's gonna remain locked. So I think we're making a lot of really good upgrades that you might not see outside of construction that are going to be huge. It's also like the new lighting we have, the new lighting project we got that grant from. The LED lights were like they're so bright. We're like the classrooms like shine now when you walk in. So there's a lot of things going on that you may not be see from the outside that do have a positive impact that we're really proud of.
Another question or comment. So personally, I was very disappointed when we put off the inclusive park. For obvious reasons, something that you know I was looking forward to. But now I see definitely a good idea to hold off.
Was the architect's recommendation?
Yeah, it was a good recommendation. Beginning, I'm like, you know, but it makes sense. Let's finish this project first, and then
clean it up, and then we can.
Yep. Thank you.
And George, there's a lot of projects that are only here because of your influence, and the Certified Angels is probably the marquee of all of them. But your influence on the inclusive part is not lost, and it's something that's definitely on the radar. Thank you.
Mr. Renzi, do you have a question?
No.
Yes, good, okay. So can I have a motion to open the floor to citizens on operation of school matters?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Martinez, seconded by Mr. Coletta. Roll call, please.
Coletta?
Yes.
Mrs. Quadrado Amaro?
Yes.
Mr. Guzman?
Yes.
Mrs. Rizzo?
Yes.
Mr. Martinez? Mr. Matzo?
Yes.
Mr. Ramadan? And Mr. Yap.
Okay, the floor is open to the public. Please state your name, your address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Anybody? Motion to move.
Motion to close, moved by Mr. Martinez, seconded by Mr. Abbasi. Roll call, please.
Mr. Abbasi?
Yes.
Mr. Coletta?
Yes.
Mrs. Quadrado Amaro? Mr. Guzman?
Yes.
Mr. Esther? Ms.
Yes.
Esther?
Yes.
Mr. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Matzo?
Yes.
Mr. Ramadan? Mr. Wong?
Great, so can I have a motion to adjourn?
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Coletta, seconded by Mr. Mosco, all in favor? Aye. All right, thank you.
Happy New Year,
everyone.
everybody.